September 10th, 2023, on a so-called regular Sunday night in Las Vegas. Panic erupted across the whole Las Vegas Strip. The slot machines froze mid-spin. Guests were locked out of their rooms. ATMs stopped dispensing cash. Staff couldn't access systems to take orders, print receipts, or even check guests in. Phones rang off the hook. The MGM app crashed. Security systems went dark. It wasn't a power outage. It was something no one saw coming. And it all started with a single phone call. How was it possible that one person, one impersonation, one conversation with MGM's IT help desk brought down over 30 hotels, costing the company tens of millions of dollars and exposing the personal data of 37 million people, causing this unbelievable hack to be recorded in history books of Las Vegas?
You don't know what you're dealing with, right? You don't know how much is compromised and how much is not compromised.
I don't even want to pay with my card right now. I'm scared that they're going to hack all of our information.
And what most people didn't know was that it was one of the most simplest hacks of all time.
Now to the cyber attack causing havoc at MGM resorts nationwide. Hackers have crippled the company's computer systems, shutting down casino slot machines, ATMs, and even guest room doors in hotels from Vegas to Atlantic City.
This is the story of how Las Vegas was shut down.
They're not just shutting down systems, they also steal data. So they'll steal, credit card numbers, social security numbers, driver's license information, personal information, any intellectual property, and then they hold that for ransom as well.
It was a Friday night inside MGM Resorts' vast digital network. Everything looked normal. Then came the call. A man claiming to be an MGM employee phoned the IT help desk. He said he was locked out of his account. He'd forgotten his password. It was urgent. He had work to do. To back up the story, he gave his name, employee ID number, and date of birth. The help desk agent checked the details. They all matched. You must have guessed the catch with this call. This was the hacker from a rapidly rising group, and the details of which we will disclose later in the video. The hacker pulled in all the information from LinkedIn, especially the MGM workers in IT or system administration. They had names, job titles, departments, and sometimes even email formats or phone numbers. With a convincing persona and a calm voice, the hacker manipulated the help desk agent. Just 10 minutes into the call, the hacker had what he needed, a password reset. Minutes later, the real MGM employee whose identity had been stolen received a notification. His password had been changed. Alarmed, he reported it to the IT department, but by then it was already too late. The hacker now had access. Using that initial breach, they pivoted deeper into MGM's internal systems. Before I go further, let me tell you about this unique tactic. The tactic used here is known as vishing, a combination of voice and phishing. It's one of the most effective and underappreciated techniques in cybercrime. Unlike email-based phishing, vishing exploits real-time human trust. There's no malware, no suspicious links, just a friendly voice, a little pressure, and a very believable story. MGM's internal verification process didn't help. According to one former employee, all you needed to reset a password was a name, an ID number, and a date of birth. Just basic details. Once inside, the attackers didn't waste a second. Using the stolen credentials, they moved laterally, hopping between systems, elevating their access, and mapping out MGM's internal network. Their first major target, Okta, the identity management platform used to control employee logins and permissions. With admin-level access to Okta, they gained the keys to the kingdom. Next came Microsoft Azure, MGM's cloud environment. The hackers escalated their privileges there too, gaining global administrator rights. That meant they could add new users, bypass controls, and dig into highly sensitive environments without triggering alarms. They could do almost anything inside MGM's digital infrastructure. What's more, the hackers brought in the infamous group ALPHV, also known as Black Cat. While the hackers gained access, ALPHV brought in the ransomware. It's a terrifying partnership. Think of these geeky crooks as the lockpicker and ALPHV as the safecracker. The mega invasion by ALPHV worsened matters for MGP. ALPHV operated what's known as Ransomware as a Service (RAAS) model. They provided encryption tools, negotiation infrastructure, and sometimes even the public pressure campaigns. Together, they launched their second phase, Lockdown. ALPHV's ransomware began encrypting over 100 VMware ESXi hypervisors, the backbone of MGM's virtual infrastructure. These servers supported the systems that powered everything from digital room keys and reservation systems to slot machines, websites, and financial applications. In plain terms, MGM's brain had just been hijacked. Encrypted systems became unusable. Recovery was impossible without the decryption keys, and the attackers made sure MGM knew exactly who was in charge. Alongside the ransomware development, ALPHV claimed to have stolen 6 terabytes of customer data. Then came the threat: pay the ransom or the data gets leaked. MGM's leadership was concerned. They could shut down systems to contain the breach or keep them online and risk further compromise. They chose the former, pulling the plug on massive parts of their digital infrastructure. It was a bold move that slowed the attackers, but it also paralyzed operations. As cybersecurity teams rushed to analyze the breach, ALPHV waited for MGM to come to the negotiation table. But MGM refused. The company held the line, choosing not to pay, unlike their competitor Caesars Entertainment, who had been hacked around the same time and reportedly paid $15 million. MGM's strategy was to isolate, contain, and rebuild. A decision that would buy them moral high ground, but also 10 days of corporate chaos. But what exactly got shut down, and who were the infamous hackers behind all of this? From the outside, it looked like a scene out of a heist movie. MGM's slot machines glitched out mid-game, displaying cryptic error codes. Cash-out vouchers had to be handwritten. Card tables sat half empty. And behind the scenes, systems that ran everything from hotel check-ins to room key access and dining reservations were offline. Some guests couldn't enter their rooms, others couldn't check in at all. MGM's messaging to the public remained vague. Their official statement referred to a cybersecurity issue and assured guests that our resorts remain operational. Guests posted photos of broken slot machines, disconnected ATMs, and printouts showing system error. Others described trying to pay at restaurants and being told to come back the next day to settle their bills. Employees weren't spared either. Corporate emails were down, internal scheduling platforms were offline, and many staff didn't know what was happening until news broke online. The group responsible for the MGM cyber attack is known in cybersecurity circles by a name that sounds more like a metal band than a criminal syndicate: Scattered Spider. Scattered Spider is a new entrant in the world of cybercriminals who specialize in social engineering, a technique where hackers exploit human behavior instead of technical flaws. Unlike traditional hacking groups that rely on brute force software attacks or ransomware alone, Scattered Spider's go-to weapon is the phone. They are also known by aliases like UNC3944, Muddled Libra, and Star Fraud. They've been behind attacks on major American companies across tech, telecom, and now hospitality. They target help desks, IT vendors, and customer support teams, not by breaching systems, but by pretending to be employees. They do their homework. They know the names, roles, phone numbers, and internal lingo, enough to make even a well-trained agent believe them. And in MGM's case, it worked pretty well, leading to one of the most disruptive cyber attacks in US hospitality history. Was MGM's response to this hack the correct one? Although MGM's immediate response was swift, it was still very costly. In their earnings report, MGM disclosed that the cyber attack led to an estimated $84 million in lost revenue. That number didn't include long-term reputational damage or the cost of rebuilding systems. They also revealed $10 million in one-time expenses spent on cybersecurity consultants, legal services, and outside advisors. Those numbers would only grow as lawsuits started piling up. The company faced criticism not just for being hacked, but for how it handled the crisis. Some accused MGM of downplaying the severity. Others accused them of moving too slowly to protect customer data. The fact that ransomware had been deployed only after MGM shut down their own systems raised eyebrows among security experts. While MGM was very busy restoring its systems, the hackers had already taken what they wanted, a goldmine of data. And they didn't keep it quiet. The group posted a warning online, threatening to leak the stolen information unless MGM paid up. MGM didn't respond, and true to their word, the data began showing up on the dark web. The breach wasn't just about room reservations or loyalty points, it went deeper. Names, phone numbers, home addresses, birth dates. For some customers, it included passport numbers, driver's licenses, and even social security numbers. The majority of stolen data affected guests who had interacted with MGM before March 2019, but that still included millions of people. Reports estimated the number of impacted individuals at over 37 million. This wasn't MGM's first brush with a data breach. Back in 2019, the personal information of over 142 million hotel guests had been stolen and later sold on the dark web. That breach included many of the same data points, names, email addresses, and phone numbers. Now, history had repeated itself, except this time, the attack was even more devastating. For MGM, the stolen data was more than a PR nightmare. It triggered class action lawsuits from affected customers. Plaintiffs accused the company of negligence, saying MGM had failed to encrypt sensitive information and ignored earlier warnings from cybersecurity vendors like Okta. The attackers were gone, but their footprints were everywhere, and the data, it wasn't coming back. Besides, if it could happen to MGM, who's next? MGM wasn't the only company hit. Just days earlier, Caesars Entertainment had suffered a similar attack. Unlike MGM, they chose to pay the ransom. They avoided the chaos, but not the exposure. Sensitive data from Caesars was stolen too. MGM reopened its doors, but the digital wounds were still fresh, and the long-term damage had only begun to unfold. Was MGM really untouchable in courts of law? Once systems were stable and the lights were back on, MGM faced a different kind of firestorm, legal and regulatory fallout. Notably, there were prior warnings from identity management provider Okta, which had reportedly flagged potential vulnerabilities in MGM systems before the attack. According to the plaintiffs, those warnings weren't taken seriously enough. At the same time, the Federal Trade Commission launched its own investigation. In January 2024, the FTC issued a civil investigative demand to MGM, seeking answers across more than 100 categories of information. The agency's focus was on whether MGM had violated consumer protection laws, including the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, which governs how financial institutions must protect consumer data. Notably, FTC's chair was also one of the victims of the MGM breach. The FTC considered MGM a financial institution because its casinos offered short-term lines of credit, known as markers, to high rollers. That classification brought a different set of standards and more legal exposure, but MGM didn't take the investigation lightly. They pushed back, filing a lawsuit against the FTC to block the CID. Their legal team argued the agency was overreaching and claimed the request was too broad, irrelevant, and violated their right to due process. However, in a surprising move, the two entities moved closer to settlement. On February 25, 2025, the agency withdrew the CID, effectively ending its probe as the new US administration took charge. Who knows what kind of out-of-court settlement was arranged, and how much was it for, I wonder? Was anyone arrested, and how much did MGM have to pay to keep their face? A year and a half after the breach, the dust still hadn't settled. But some answers finally emerged. In March 2025, MGM agreed to a $45 million settlement in the class action lawsuit brought by victims of the data breach. Emails began going out to affected customers, offering compensation based on the sensitivity of their stolen data. If your social security number was exposed, you were eligible for $75. If it was your passport number or driver's license, $50. For your name, address, and birth date, $20. All claimants were offered a year of free credit monitoring. But while MGM dealt with lawyers and settlements, law enforcement had its own goals, tracking down the people behind the hack. By late 2024, 5 individuals suspected of being involved in the MGM ransomware attack were charged by the US Department of Justice. Some arrests were made, others remained at large. A British teenager was also arrested and linked to the casino hacks, but it was clear he didn't act alone. While the arrests are occurring, more creative hacks are being planned in the depths of cyberspace across the globe. Who will be getting hit the next time? Only time can tell.